Morning. Good morning, everybody. I just want to do a quick time check. I was told I've got 3.5 hours.
An
hour for questions. So I've got until 11:30. So I want to make sure clock starts now. So thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks to all of you. A number of our clients in the room. Some of our competitors, Greg, so if you don't mind recusing yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know you're all busy people, so thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. I just want to start off quickly by just saying a lot of what you're going to see today. I'm just a head office guy, so a lot of what you're going to see today is really hard work done by a lot of other people. One of them being Sherrod in the room, who did introduce himself early on. So a lot of what you're going to say, I actually don't know why he's even better looking and a better speaker than me. So I'm not sure why you would ask him to come present this. So really, a lot of what you're about to see today, we really have a great leadership team. We've got great people working for us. So I just want to acknowledge the work that they've done. I just get to have the pleasure of presenting it. So what I'm going to speak about a little bit today is, I don't have the laptop in front of me, so please excuse me for turning around a little bit. I just want to give you a little bit of the strategic context. So really why did we embark on a 2020 strategy? What is it that we had to execute on? Talk a little bit about our 2020 strategy. I think very importantly, which is really where Stratexe came in, our strategy execution framework. I want to talk a little bit about what I call connecting the dots, because really connecting the dots, particularly for the people in the organization, particularly an organization of our size, is really, really important. Most importantly, look, we're all businessmen here. Ultimately, fortunately or unfortunately, depending which way you look at it, is about the numbers. So are we seeing the results? And then just a little bit of what we've learned through this process. And then Fernando, I think we're going to take some questions. So before I give the strategic context, just a little bit about DD, and it's not about selling DD. I just think it's important, for the rest of the presentation for you to make sense, just to get a bit of a sense of Dimension Data. Middle East and Africa is one of the 5 regions within DD globally. We operate in about 10 countries. We've got about 24 offices, 12,500 people, roughly about an 11 billion rand turnover business. And we really have 3 businesses in our business. One is a business we call Systems Integration, which really is a business that deploys, supports and manages infrastructure technology, mainly on behalf of our clients, of which there are a number of them. Mainly we're talking about networking technology, data center technology, Microsoft, contact centers, and by and large the security that you need to secure them. The second company is a company called Brighthouse. Brighthouse deploys and manages applications on behalf of our clients, mainly SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft. Although it also has what we call an advanced mobility business, analytics business. Data analytics is becoming quite a big issue, and it also has a company called Automate, which really runs most of the dealer management. We probably run about 50% of the dealer management systems for dealer franchises in the country. And the third business is a business called Merchants, which essentially is a BPO business. So we really run contact centers on behalf of a lot of large companies in South Africa and abroad. It actually has a subsidiary in Canada, so a lot of contact center business. So we're quite a part of the kind of job creation in South Africa, a lot of those contact centers. So for example, SAA, CLC, the Mercedes-Benz, if I think of 3 of the kind of large clients that we have, we run those contact centers. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of context for what I'm about to take you through. So in 2015, to Fernando's point, I think it's been, when I say 2015, I was appointed to my current position. I had been with the group for 18 years. I think, Sherrod, you've been even longer, if I recall correctly, probably about 20 years. I was appointed in my current position, I think in about August of 2015. We really found ourselves very much in a perfect storm. A lot of things really weren't going our way. We found that our overhead costs had really gotten away from us for various reasons. Our overhead costs had grown by 10%. Only 6 of our 14 businesses in this portfolio that I was describing early on were achieving budget. We had just finalized a big acquisition, and that was Brighthouse. With all the challenges that always comes with merging and bringing businesses together, 4 of these 14 businesses were actually loss-making. And significant losses. One of them was losing $6 million. One of them was losing $2 million a year. So they're quite significant. And we were unwinding the unsuccessful merger of 2 businesses, which really was also one of the 4 loss-making businesses. And we had made a decision to consolidate some of our geographies. So for various reasons, we've decided to exit the North African market, which for us primarily was Morocco and Algeria, and also the Middle East, which primarily for us was Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and a business we had in Oman. And I'll come back to that. So really tough times. This perfect storm led to deteriorating results. So if you look at the deck there, really our return on sales or operating profit margin, as we define it, had declined from about 5.6% in financial year 12 to 2.2% in FY15. So, clearly not a picture that anybody would be happy with. So something had to change. I mean, that obviously is just not, essentially we have decreased our operating margin by 2/3 over a 5-year period. So, quite frankly, we were busy destroying shareholder value. So something had to change. So the first thing we did, which I think is very important, and I'll talk about it a bit later, is we took a step back. When you're in the eye of a storm, it can be very, very difficult to take a step back. And now I must be at great pains to point out that the business was never in trouble for us. I mean, if you looked at the previous, this slide, for example, revenue had never been a problem for us. We were good in executing in the market. We had great clients. Buying out our service to clients was good. So it was really important for us to take a step back and really understand, but if that is the case, why had our operating margins deteriorated so much? So we took a step back, and the first thing we said is that we decided, where is it that we want to compete? For me, I always say business strategy, this may or may not be the way Stratexe or Norton Kaplan or, business schools define it, but for me, business strategy is, where do you want to compete? So in other words, essentially, who do you want to sell to? What is it that you are going to sell to them? And probably most important, why should they buy it from you and not somebody else? So we really had a look at that, and we really had a look at what are the key markets, and this really represents what are the big markets within our geography. What is very important, though, is a market might be big, but for various reasons, you don't want to be in it. So as an example, we decided at this point in time that as much as Nigeria is an attractive market for us, for various reasons, we did not believe that we could build a sustainable business there. United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, though challenging markets as they are, we decided that we can be there. Strategically, it is quite important for us because the Middle East in particular is a very important market for a lot of global original equipment manufacturers. So the people that are our business partners, that market's quite important. So we actually changed our strategy there where we were going to exit those markets. We decided to give it a go. We would give ourselves 3 years to try and turn those businesses around. And we really then defined, so that's the who do you sell to, and then we really decided what is it that we want to sell to those clients. Yeah, we really focused around what are the markets that we want to go in, and what do we have confidence. And then we set ourselves a bold new goal. I'm sure you've all read Jim Collins' Good to Great. I mean, it's an oldie, but it's a bit of a classic as far as I'm concerned. They talk about BHAGs, bold, hairy, audacious goals. So we set ourselves a goal. We wanted to get to an operating margin of 7.5%. And we did a lot of analysis around what do we, we did a lot of benchmarking and what do we believe represents a good performance over a period of time from a company with our capabilities, and that is owned by a group company. And we decided that we wanted to do that by 2020. You have to appreciate that at the time, having gone from 5.6% slowly to 2.2% margin over a 5-year period, the thought of getting that back to 2020 really is seen, and we're not there yet, and I'll go take you through some of those details. It really was seen as quite a bold goal by ourselves. That really then became our 2020 strategy. So I'm sure that this will resonate with you. We felt it's really important that we were clear on what it is that we are trying to do. What is the mission that we're on? What is the vision? What would I like you, some of you in this room as a client, to see us as? When you talk about dimension data, how would we like to be described? And what is our value proposition? So why should clients be doing business with us? And then we defined 4 things. So I personally, and us as an organization, are massive believers in simplicity. In fact, when my wife first saw this, she laughed at me because she says, you broke your own rule of 3. Because I always say to her, I cannot remember more than 3 things. Any meeting that I go to, if there's more than 3 action items or things being discussed, I just can't do it. So I always spoke about the rule of 3, but we came up with 4. So we really had 4 strategic imperatives that we wanted to focus. The first one was to build a cross-brand differentiated client engagement model. So we have these 3 businesses. We have an application business, we have an infrastructure business, and we have a BPO business. And we really felt that as much as we did not want to integrate those businesses, because in our experience, rightly or wrongly, integration of businesses destroys more value than it creates over a period of time. Of course, it depends on what type of businesses you have, but all 3 of those businesses came from distinct cultures and they have distinct different backgrounds. But what we did want to get is bring to bear for our clients the benefit that comes, of the different value propositions in those businesses. So for us, that was the number one rationale about why we came together as a business. The second thing we then wanted to do is we wanted to deploy standardized, globalized, best-in-class service delivery capabilities. And I won't bore you with the details, but in the world of IT, the way service gets delivered has changed significantly over time. And clients are looking for, and many of our clients are looking for globalized, multi-location delivery, and more, they don't necessarily want what we call feet in the street. They want automated, remote managed solutions, and they're also under cost pressure. So they want the cost that you charge them to run those services to reduce. Therefore, your cost to run those services have to reduce. And we said, guys, we have to streamline our business. That's the word nobody ever wants to talk about, but that is the reality. We have to streamline our business. Why? Because if we don't streamline our business, we simply don't have the money to improve our client experience. We don't have the money to improve profitability and fund our transformation. And one of the things that we've done last year is, for the first time that I've been in the group for 18 years, we've set aside money in our budget for investment. I mean, that's the money. Well, one of the things that Sharon and his team does is really run those investments, because when you're under profit pressure, it can be unheard of sometimes to put away money for the future. But we said, well, we have to, but we can't do that. And the analogy I always use is, those of you that have children, that one day your children have to go to university. Ignoring that reality is not going to help them. So if you don't have enough money to save now to send them to university, there's only one thing you can do, and that is you have to reduce your costs. You have to reduce the money that's going out of your bank account so that you can invest proactively in getting that return for the future. And of course, none of this can be done without people. So we have to develop our people, and then our values is something that we feel about very, very strongly. So it underpins everything we do. And that became, because listen, no great strategy helps without a tagline, right? Everybody must have a tagline that people can. I know everybody here has a 2020, 2025, 2023 goal. 2010, I still remember that. That was great because there was a lot of nation building around 2010, the World Cup. Almost every client I spoke to, including ourselves, had a 2010 strategy. So, we felt 2020. And look, I also don't think you can really plan strategy, certainly not in our industry, beyond 5 years. If you're in the business of maybe manufacturing, putting down plants, looking to get longer term returns, maybe you can look beyond that. But for us, the industry changes so much that you really can't look beyond the 5 year. We actually do have an 8-year business plan, but we've also felt for people to make it real in this industry, let's frame the time period as 5 years. And that became what we call a 2 by 2 by 2 by 2020 strategy. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what that means. So that was great. This was the easy part of strategy. And this is the fun part of strategy. Right? So to be honest, I'm not a strategy guy. I'm an execution guy. Because for me, anybody can do market research. Anybody can put nice PowerPoint together. It takes a little bit of creativity to come up with 2 by 2 by 2 by 2020. Not really. But, the hard part is, how do you execute it? And most importantly, how do you get the 12,500 people that work for you to execute? Because there's no false modesty in it. When I say I am a head office overhead, I don't execute on any of the strategy. And I'm sure most of you would admit that. Of course, we lead the business as executives, but whether you are manufacturing something, whether you are providing power to the country, whether you are making tires, you're not physically sitting in that factory making it. So how do you get those people to really align with what it is that you are trying to do? And there's been a lot of narrative. There's been, I read Harvard Business Review about 6 months ago. They call it the malaise of middle management, the strategy execution gap. So really, that part of how do you get that guy that comes to work every day to try and achieve what everybody in this business is trying to achieve ultimately. So we felt that it is important. We needed a framework, and that's really where we spoke to Stratexe. And we said, listen, guys, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. I personally read a lot of Norton and Kaplan. During my time when I studied in MBA, I read Balanced Scorecard. I think the strategy gap or the strategy map was the second one. We heard about these guys and we spoke to them about it. So what they helped us to do, so it doesn't come across fantastically well, is our strategy map. And I want to bore you with the details. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the concept of the strategy map. Strategy map for us really defines ultimately what are the outputs that we want, and importantly, what does that then mean? What are the inputs that we as an organization need to do? Because the outputs we can't control. That's what we want to achieve. But the inputs, can control. So we wanted, kind of the normal stuff. To be fair, I'd be surprised if most companies don't want to do that. We wanted sustainable revenue growth. We wanted our growth to be profitable. And the context to that is, that first slide. We had a lot of businesses in Africa that were growing. There was revenue growth, but you saw the operating margin. It wasn't profitable growth. That was quite important. We also wanted the right revenue mix, and we needed a shift in our cost efficiency. You saw what had happened to our overheads. We really needed to make sure we do. What is very important is we defined how we wanted our clients to experience it. So when our clients spoke about us, we wanted our clients to say certain things about us. And then below that, we defined what we speak about all the time in the business, the levers. What levers do you pull to make that happen? And we characterize them as revenue growth levers. We characterize them as go-to-market levers, which really service delivery and business support. And that you'll see now is where the 2 by 2 by 2 come in. Very important. Now, I'd love to see how many nods I get now. The most important thing that we've learned in strategy execution is not what you decide to do. It's what you decide you're not going to do. Because you can get so excited. Because up until this point, let me tell you, and you guys were involved in this as well, this point was the fun part, right? This is the fun part. Everybody wants to be part of this. Then comes the part where we decide, guys, we have decided we can only do X amount of things, and we're going to put money and organizational effort behind it. So we basically defined this as the key things to make that strategy happen. And that was the workshop that wasn't fun anymore. That wasn't fun anymore. Because that's when every executive, rightly so, I'm not knocking them, comes to that workshop with the stuff that is crucially important, in their opinion, to them. And we had to decide we simply cannot do them all, and we used a grid, which is complexity to execute versus return, right? So you kind of look at, in a perfect world, you want to pick simplest complexity to execute versus highest return. Life's not that simple. There are some things that you have to do, whether they are complex and whether they're going to give you return. So we then prioritize 9 strategic initiatives to achieve those goals. And then we built a target operating model to measure this success. Now I don't know if I was going to say I am a runner, hence the Garmin, but it's a very, it's a bit of marketing if I were to tell you that I'm a runner. But what I always say about running is deciding to go run a race, setting yourself that goal. Again, that is the easy. I'm going to run 2 oceans, no problem. It's great excitement, book the rooms, that's great. Then you need to decide, well, what time are you going to run it in? And then when you do the time, now if you're a runner, these fancy watch breaks time down very, very scientifically. It says if you want to run this race in this time, you have to run shorter spaces. So, we felt it's very, very important to come up with measurements to let us know, to really have a goal to work towards that will tell us that we will be successful. And that's where the 2 by 2 by 2 came from. And you can see how we link this to some organizational call to arms, if that makes any sense. So the first 2 is we said, guys, we want to grow by twice the market growth. So if the market in Kenya is growing by 8% this year, you saw the market research that we did, we want to grow by 16%. Because if we grow by 8%, we're not outperforming anybody, are we? And the thing that I always, as you can imagine, quite unpopularly tell our sales teams is, why would I give you a salary increase? To simply sell as much in the market as everybody else is. I want you to outperform our competitors. I want you to grab market share. And of course, the reason why that's particularly important is as you get to the regrettable period where we are going now, for example, in South Africa, where the economy is really tightening up. It's very difficult to get revenue growth if you're not taking market share. The second thing is we said, guys, we wanted 2 points improvement in our gross margin, 2 points in the gross margin ratio. So really by evolving our delivery model, and then the other part is really changing our operating model, because we just felt that our cost to sell to our clients and our G&A, which is general and administrative expenses, had to reduce. We want to introduce that by 2 points as well. So we defined what our overheads to revenue ratio is. We said we want that to go down by 2 points. So that's where the 2 by 2 by 2 comes in. The fact that 2020 happened to be 5 years away kind of rhymes, really. If we started this in 2023, I'm not quite sure what we would have called it. We might have had to come up with another tagline, but the 2 by 2 by 2 and the target operating model wouldn't have changed. And we said, guys, if we do that, the results will take care of itself. Right? So don't worry about the results. You probably all, you have sports people talking all the time about the process and not the results. So guys, if we do these 3 simple things, the results will take care of itself. Am I making sense so far? I haven't lost you. We only got 3 hours to go, so don't panic. Right, so what we then found is, I have been part of Dimension Data and other large organizations for a while. And what we found is strategy is fantastic. Then you build the framework, that's very important. Then you prioritize, very, very important. Then you put measurements in place. But a lot of people, amazingly, still stop at that point in time. So again, I can decide to run a race. I can do all the homework. I can buy the book. I can buy the watch. I've now got the timetables. I even put in my diary, I'm going to run these days. I organize with my wife, listen, you taking the kids to school that day so I can go running. There's one little part missing after that. You've got to put your shoes on and actually go running. And then you've got to measure your success. You've got to have check-in points to see, well, is that really giving us visible results? So we've felt that it's really important to invest in a business transformation office. Why? Really to execute on the strategy, and also because to execute on our strategy, our industry, like I'm sure a lot of yours as well, is going through profound change. And that's why we use the word transformation. And we really felt that we needed to take what we call a programmatic and systemic approach to transformation. Lots of you have been through transformation in your personal lives. It could be a number of things. It could be recovering from illness. It could be losing weight. It could be having children. And by and large, transformation is a process that you have to manage. It doesn't happen naturally. And that's where Sherrod and his team came in. And what was also very important for us is we took Sherrod's background is he is an executive from within the business. He ran one of our profit centers successfully because we also felt that we wanted someone that's not removed from reality, with due respect. We really wanted someone who understood the pain points in the business and could help us execute on that. And this transformation office then really helps us. We develop the strategy, we execute on it, it measures our target operating model. As you can see, we focus on our internal levers, and ultimately provides us with an integrated framework to achieve that business transformation. So then, that's all great. Had the strategy, had the plan, way to measure, an office that's going to help us with it. But the big thing is you've got to take the people along for the ride. Now, I always felt as a person, going to work for me, the most important thing was always trying to understand what is the organization that I work for doing, and how am I adding value to it? Because to be frank, if I'm not adding value to where the organization's going, let's be honest, we're going to have a problem at some point in time. So we really wanted to make sure we connect the dots for our people. So our people said, okay, guys, we get it. This is school stuff. We got the strategy, you got these priorities, and even the executive team, right? We think we're clever, but we're not that clever. And you think you've got it all waxed, and you've got PowerPoint, and you've got measures, and you've got a target operating model, and suddenly people will sit in meetings and say, but hang on, can you just, sorry, I know we went through it. We had workshops, we had off-sites, and all those wonderful things, right? We had lacquer prawns in Durban, it was unbelievable, but just remind me again, and this is human nature. It's just the way it is, because business is complex. We deal with a lot of stuff in business and in our personal lives. So we said, guys, it's important to connect the dots for our people. We connected the dots, and this is where I'm going to keep marketing. Unfortunately, the slide doesn't come across that well. So what we did is on one page, we said, guys, so just to remind you, here on the left is essentially the 2020 strategy. Is it on your left? That's right. Here on the right is the strategy map. So how do we execute on the strategy? At the top are the priorities. So we said, folks, it's very, very simple. And I'm just going to take you through one example. The slides take you through the rest, but I think one example is enough. We said, guys, remember, we want cross-brand differentiation. We want to pull together the value proposition of these different companies. So we picked cross-brand go-to-market for client engagement as one of our initiatives run through Sherrod's team, owned by our sales director. Why have we picked that? Because we want sustainable revenue growth, the output that we want. We want optimum revenue mix. What are the levers that we are pulling? We want to maximize our traditional business. We want to accelerate our transform business. We want to acquire new clients, etc., etc. And that is the first of our 4 strategic pillars of build a cross-brand differentiated engagement model. And if we achieve this, we will achieve the target operating model growth of 2 times market revenue. Does that make sense? So we kind of on one slide. And then, of course, you go through the next stuff, right, which is cascading. You all have different HR systems. We've got a system called Workday, which is quite a cool digital system. And what we now do is we now set people's objectives, and we do real-time monitoring of that based on this slide. So we really felt it important. I'm not going to take you, so every other slide demonstrates the same thing. Under services, there's the 2 priorities for services. There's what we're trying to achieve. There's the levers that we're pulling, and that will get us to the target operating model achievement, and so forth. Same thing for what we call digitization, which is a huge part of our cost efficiency shift. So fantastic, Werner. Unbelievable. Great strategy, great plan. You all have shareholders. You're all executives. What's the bottom line? I mean, what does this come to? Well, the good news is that we are seeing the results. A couple of things that happened. Firstly, we managed to successfully exit 2 of the businesses that we had to go out. And when I say successfully exit, look, exiting a business is quite difficult. I mean, having a child is quite difficult, but you can't exit a child. You can't put it back. It's quite a difficult thing to do. So maybe wasn't the best analogy I've used. But building a business or starting a business is one thing. Exiting it is very difficult. From a people perspective, from an income statement or balance sheet perspective, from a client perspective, because now you've got clients, you've still got businesses in those territories. So there's a lot of boxes that we had to tick, and we have managed to successfully exit 2 of those businesses. We have preferred partners for our clients in those businesses. Most of the staff have retained their jobs, and we have exited those businesses at about 20% of the costs that we had estimated it would take originally. We decided that we wanted to stay in the UAE and in Saudi, and I'm delighted to say that so far so good in terms of turning that around. The UAE business, as an example, lost $6 million in 2015. Touch wood. We had our operational reviews yesterday. They'll make $2.5 million this year. Lots of pain, but that business is successfully turning around. Similarly in UAE. We are going through a big, as you know, we sell digital transformation. We have the same within Dimension Data. We used to call it eat your own dog food. We thought that wasn't sexy. So we changed it to drink your own champagne. So whatever we sell to our clients, we use internally. So we're going through our own digital transformation. We're doing a lot of stuff internally. We've got, is it now 12, 13 bots running in our organization. I mean, I'll give you a very simple example of one of our bots called Cody Mitts. Cody apparently is our dating partner. Is that true or not? Or not? I've heard the 2 bots are dating, but it's unverified. So very simplistically speaking, what Cody does as an example is a lot of you that are clients will have, probably one of the things that irritates you most about doing business with us is what we call our contract schedule. So when you renew particular support contract with us, these things are complicated because there's 10,000 what we call CI's configuration items in your environment, routers, switches, data center items, etc. So really getting all of those right, having contractual based SLAs, being able to upload that into our contact center so the person that takes a call from you knows where it is, can enable the service is, you can appreciate, quite complex. We put a bot in place. So Cody is one of the bots that we're using. I don't have the latest up-to-date stats, but if I recall, I think it took 40 man-hours to put one of those contact schedules together. I think the last I saw Cody had that down to 5 minutes, if I remember correctly. So efficiency gain is significant. So that our internal cost of G&A of our financial shared services today, next year's budget will be 5% less than it was in 2015. So in real terms, if you consider inflation, because we give inflation increase to staff, that probably grows by about, it's probably decreased by about 25%. And of course, and that's, by the way, when you talk about connecting the dots, that's how we look at it. So when we talk about Cody, we say Cody is this priority to achieve the 2% reduction. And then you start realizing, but Cody doesn't just achieve the 2% reduction. He also helps us with the next 2, which is the margin growth. Because, of course, now you can imagine when a robot's doing it, your error rate, and I can't remember the latest error rate statistic, I think we're almost at 5% now. The improvement in the error rate, so the client's happier, and we're not missing stuff off the schedules, our backup costs are correct, etc. So it adds value overall. We've significantly improved our cross-selling. I spoke about the shared services that we've implemented, and we've gone through significant change in our service delivery model. We've started what we call a managed services center in Port Elizabeth. So we're not a big fan of offshoring if we don't have to. We're headquartered and operates an economy that needs jobs. So, it's very easy to move stuff to Bangalore, and we, because we're a global company, we did have to move some of the stuff there. But we enjoy what we call local shoring or right shoring. So, take advantage of lower cost arbitrage in your own country. So a lot of the service that we deliver, for example, particularly in the managed service space, comes from Port Elizabeth. And we are seeing the results. So in 2017, so remember this journey started in about August of 2015. Our financial year runs until September. So financial year 2017, we're now in halfway through 2018. We grew revenue by 10%. Gross profit by 13.7%. So that's good because we're getting that leverage. Because what I always say is gross profit has to grow faster than revenue. If you're improving your gross margin ratio, our overheads, so we are doing business, our cost of doing business today is less than it was 18 months ago, and our profitability has almost tripled, during that period. So our profitability is up by about 169%. So very, very importantly, we are starting to see those results. So that trend pleasantly is starting to turn around for us. So we've gone from, so we actually bottomed out. So any of you that have ever been around with a turnaround, the number one phrase, if you want to write anything down, please write this down. You must tell your chairman, it's going to get worse. But the reality is it always does. It really always gets worse before it gets better. Because when you start to make fundamental decisions around your business, that typically has short-term impacts for longer-term gains. So when I showed you that slide, and we bottomed out at 1.8, and the good news is our year-to-date results are actually 6.1. So we are actually quite closer to where we want to be. FY19 only kicks off later. We're actually closer to where we want to be. Hard slog, but we're getting there. So what have we learned? I think I'm pretty much decent on time. So what have, and I speak for myself, and I think for some of the members of our teams, what have we learned through this process? It's always difficult to pick one thing, but for me personally, this probably is the number one. Make sure you actually understand the problem. Everybody wants to jump into problem solving. Everybody wants to jump into problem solving, particularly when you're in a perfect storm, and particularly when you're feeling the heat. Because no one likes the heat of not hitting numbers or making losses. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of heat in the system, and when that's the case. And we found it very, very important. And what then happens is, I used to live in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, and there was an old joke there going around about fortunas. Actually, I just realized it's probably politically incorrect to tell that joke because I can't remember the English phrase. But the politically incorrect one is, or the more politically correct one, which is still ugly, is opinions are like arseholes. Everybody has one. So in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, we used to say it's like fortunas. Everybody has one. In the northern suburbs of Joburg, I think the appropriate phrase is Porsche Cayennes. Opinions are like Porsche Cayennes. Everyone has one. I've never seen so many Porsche Cayennes since I moved to Joburg. So what we found is everybody has an opinion. And that's right. And they are entitled to opinion. And we have this new catchphrase, which I wish I'd come up with because it's really cool, which is until you have the facts, all you have is an opinion of one. So it was really important for us to say, guys, let's really make sure that we understand our problems. And I'll tell you what, when we first came up with our strategy, there were dissenters. There were people that said it can't be that. Our problems, those are not our problems. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying we're all right, but really make sure that you understand the problems. Transformation is a process. It's not an event. It's not an event. So, I spoke earlier on about personal transformation, whatever you might have gone through, whether it is beating cancer, whether it is, running a race, whether it is losing weight, whatever it might be. It's not an event. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't make up your mind, and the next day you are transformed. It is a process. It takes time. And the challenges with processes are that it's very easy to get derailed during that time. Guys, I'm really losing weight. Look at that bar one. Very, very easy to get derailed. It's not an event. Transformation is not an event. It's a process. I mentioned this early on. What we found important is that a systemic programmatic approach to strategy execution is key. You've really got to, and it is boring and dull sometimes. It really, really is. It's not fun often, to take people back to, but hang on a second, why are you doing this? Does it relate to our priorities? Particularly when we see the shiny new toys. It is important. And it is also important that you revisit that, and I'll come to that on my next slide, because you mustn't be married to your own plan either. It's very, very important. And that's where the Sherrod and his team keep us honest. They have to hold up the mirror to us all the time. To say, okay, but is this thing really still working? Or is it time to drop that product? Is it time to reprioritize? Is it time to come up with something else? Are we really, really seeing the results? I really wish there was, but there is no silver bullet. I have been looking for it incessantly for the last 3 years, and I just can't find it. Reading business books is a wonderful thing, because when you read a business book, it just sounds like this CEO is just amazing. He sat down, We looked at the problem, even the way we presented today, right? Sounds fantastic. He had a plan and man, it just went like that. It's just not like that. It goes more like a heartbeat. Ultimately, hopefully, the trend graph is in the right direction, but there really is no silver bullets. I have spent so many nights, when I say I mean the leadership team overall as well, thinking of silver bullets. Every year when we say, and we refer to it as the gap, there's a gap in our budget, there's a gap in this, there's a gap in that. You are thinking of what is that one lever? What are those two things we can do? We have not found them over the last close to 3.5 years now. There are no silver bullets. There's just a lot of small incremental things that you can do time after time, diligently, that will get you to where you need to be. And you have got to take your people along on the ride. That's the most important part, and can be the most difficult part. You know, because people, and we in our most recent, when was it, Charlotte? About 6 weeks ago, when we had our most recent version of the strategy and what do we want to do in priority, and we spoke to a culture expert there who's worked with IBM, Apple, Google, all these companies. You know, he made a very good point. He says organizations spend so much time talking about their strategy, so much time about their objectives and the incentives and how that drives behavior from people. He's learned that that's not the case at all. People's behavior is driven by, they listen to your strategy, and when they go home, they think either this is a threat to me or this is going to make my life better. And they make a decision which one it is, and then they either passively or actively resist what you're trying to do, or they passively or actively support what you're trying to do. So it's super, super important to bring the people along on the ride. And of course, unfortunately, that really tough part about being a leader. At some point, you also have to make a call that individuals are not on the ride. So, you know, let's get them off that bus. Make sure we've got the right people. And what's also interesting is a lot of people opt out of that ride as well. When they understand what the journey is and where you're going on, and that's not necessarily the journey that they want to go on. And that's fine. Because I always say to people, guys, if the bus is going to Pretoria, but you don't live in Pretoria and you don't want to go there, there is no real point getting on that bus, because you're simply going to arrive somewhere and go, but this is not where I want to be. So what is the point? You know, so you really got to take your people on that. So what are the next steps? I think what we work on continually is to improve that execution gap. Because again, you know, on a nice Friday morning after you've had a delicious breakfast and you look at some PowerPoint, you know, that gap that looks perfect. It isn't. And daily we fail. Daily, there are still meetings where people will debate, but is that a priority? But hang on, why are we doing this? So we're continuing to work on closing that gap. And this year, what we've decided to do for the first time is when we do our budget meetings in January for our new financial year, is not just to have budget meetings, but to include an extra day for strategy. So we're actually going to start the budget with strategy and then go into budgets, because we're trying to close the gap between strategy and budgets, because I find that that's often where it falls over. You've got great strategic plans, but the budget doesn't reflect either the investment you need or the results that you're looking for from that strategy. Because if somebody tells me, Werner, I'm going to go to 2 by 2 by 2020, and I look at his budget and he's not growing revenue by more than the market, and his delivery margin is not going up, and his overhead costs are not going up, then our budgets are not reflecting the reality of our strategy. So that's the next step, and that's a continuous process. And by the way, let me interrupt myself for a second. I probably should just call this the process and not next steps, because it's not as though this is the next step and then there typically will be a different next step. This is just a process that we go through all the time. And then we will revisit our strategic priorities. So we have those 9. A lot of them are actually complete now. Yeah? We're starting to look at new ones, and we are saying, is this priority still valid? Can we take it off? Do we need to stop doing this? Do we need to start doing something? We continue to do our fine-tuning, which I know Sherrod's been very busy with. We continue to fine-tune our target operating model because, you know, again, on this journey of training for 2 oceans and having your plan, things go wrong. You get sick for a week. Okay, it wasn't in your plan to be sick. What does that mean? Does that mean next week I can now still run the same distances at the same pace? Do I have to slow that down a little bit and then speed up the next week? There are these speed bumps along the way. So you've got to fine-tune that target operating model. And then really working very hard. I mentioned Workday early on. We went live on that about, was it 6 months ago? And we're really now starting to try and professionalize the embedment of cascading that strategy map so that, you know, most people in the organization, and I always say to people, look, I started out with this very idealistic view that kind of the driver must be able to articulate the strategy to you. I don't think it's fair to expect the driver to articulate the strategy to you. I think the only thing that's fair is that you make sure that middle management gives that driver an objective that ultimately supports what you're trying to do, if that makes any sense. The engineer, simplistically speaking, that comes to your site to bring up your manufacturing plant because your network is down, I don't want him to afterwards have a cup of coffee with you and explain necessarily our strategy. I mean, I'd love for him to be very interested, right? Because I'm sure you know that old story about the broom sweeper when the guys came to visit NASA. It's a classic strategy example, and he was whistling, and the president asked him, the president came to visit NASA, why are you so excited? How can one get excited about cleaning the floor? He said, I don't clean the floor. I'm here to help put a man on it. So I think it's very, very important that people can resonate with the mission and what the company is trying to do. I don't expect them to be experts on the strategy, but I do expect to make sure that we cascade it down and that lady or that guy knows when he wakes up in the morning what he's got to do, and that we are comfortable that is helping us achieve our goals. Thank you.